Sixth grade, it's Mrs. Keys here. I just wanted to say hi and also give you some information about fish and amphibians. Those are the next two, or the last two, I should say, animals in our animal unit. We're going to do amphibians first. You've already kind of learned a little bit from our videos. Did you? No, I don't remember if I assigned them first or not. I feel like I did. If not, you'll do it together, which is even better. Okay, so we're gonna start notes on amphibians, and I need you to make sure you have this photo. Okay, so same drill here. You need to make sure you include your photo. Otherwise, I will comment and say, hey, where's your picture? Okay, so we're looking at this picture right here. It's got some frogs. It's got a salamander, an eft. E-F-T. It's a weird looking something. It's this guy right here. Okay? It's a red eft. E-F-T, which is, yeah, the Amazon horned frog. The orange-legged rain frog is pretty gross. The blue dart frog's pretty awesome. So yeah, make sure you have this and that you put it in your notes, and we will get going. Okay, so amphibians, make sure that you remember this sound so that you know when to write stuff down. There's quite a few notes. There's a lot for fish, but there's like a normal amount for amphibians. So again, you're writing this in your notebook and you are taking a picture and making sure that you include it in the assignment so I can give you credit, okay? All right, let's get started. So amphibians, actually the word amphibian means living two lives. Living the double life, you guys. That's what amphibians do. And what it means by this is that they spend the first part of their life in water, so that would be life number one. And then once they've reached adulthood, they can later live on land. So they'll still be around the water, but they're not, aquatic animals like fish are. Okay, so first part of their life is in the water, and then once they've reached adulthood, they can be on land. Okay, they are cold-blooded, meaning their body temperature is dependent upon their environment. We know what that means, kind of like the lizards. So if it's cold outside, they will be cold. If it's warm, they will be warm. Okay, so two main parts. They are cold-blooded, and the first part of their life is in water. The second part is on land. Okay, for life cycle, they are born from an egg, and then they become a tadpole or larva, depending on which one, and then they go to adulthood. So while a few species of frogs give birth to live young, most amphibians follow the same basic life cycle. So even though those frogs give birth to live young, they're not considered mammals. They are still considered amphibians. Okay, so the adults lay eggs in the water. The amphibian hatches as a tadpole or larva, and at this time, babies breathe air by using gills. So they breathe like fish, okay? All right, so as far as species, there are several different types of amphibian species. The most common are frogs and salamanders. That's why we're talking about like larvae and tadpoles, because it's the biggest range. Salamanders, though, have more than 550 known species. I didn't know that. That's a lot of different kinds of species of salamanders. Since salamanders absorb water through their skin, they must find shady but moist areas to live. So they can't be in a place that's really dry, because they will probably dry out since there's nothing for their skin to absorb. Most can be found in South America and central Mexico. These are salamanders, okay? Habitats, they can survive in many different types of habitats. Again, they have to be sort of wet or moist areas because of just the way that they grow. They can be found in forests, meadows, springs, streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, marshes, swamps, and even farmland. If you think about all of these areas, even in a forest, it's still pretty damp because the water from the ground that comes down from the sky in the form of rain doesn't evaporate as much. It sort of stays in this kind of greenhouse effect with all of the leaves sort of keeping all that moisture from the ground up And so there's kind of this greenhouse effect going on. So it's still a nice, warm, moist environment for these animals. So that's why forests is included in that list. Okay, as far as diet, most amphibians prefer to snack on smaller insects. Using their sticky tongues, they adhere to their prey and then quickly pull the prey back into their mouths. Most salamanders use something called trichromatic color vision, which is super cool. This is how they locate prey, and it means that they possess three, that's where the word tri comes from, independent channels for conveying color information. So they identify their prey by color. So trichromatic color vision. So let's write that down. So trichromatic is spelled Trichromatic. I'll write it down right here so that you have it. Trichromatic color vision, which means three independent channels for conveying color information. All right. Other features. Glass frogs have transparent skin through which you can see their internal organs, which is just lovely. Huh, Mr. Keys?
Yes, ma'am.
Glass frogs. That would be disgusting. If I was in a pond, which I frequent ponds, and I saw a glass frog, I would probably have some kind of attack, like mentally or nervously. That would be so weird. Okay, let's see. Some wood frogs found mostly in Canada and Alaska survive by allowing their bodies to freeze during the winter and then thawing again once warmer temperatures return, which is super cool. And I've seen videos of this before. They will do purposely the thing that the iguanas did in Florida. So it's their way of sort of hibernating without sleeping. They'll just kind of sit and like hang out and then kind of freeze and everything pauses. And then once it starts to get warmer, they will thaw out and continue living their lives, which, I mean, I kind of wish I could do that, like during the Rona quarantine, just sort of like freeze and pause and then like wake up when things are better. That would actually be a very helpful skill. Huh, Mr. Keys? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he agrees. Okay, poisonous species tend to have bright coloring to warn potential predators of their toxicity, which I think this is a cool thing that God did to warn other animals that these poisonous species are dangerous. He basically made them completely stand out so that they wouldn't want to approach them. Now, as humans, we're like, ooh, something blue. Like if we saw a blue poisonous dart frog, we'd probably be more inclined to go and be around it and look at it and stuff, but animals aren't like us, and they don't care about science and cool things, and so they'd probably stay away. Okay, so that's it for amphibians, and let's move on. Oh my gosh, well, there's my folder. Let's move on to fish. Thanks. Threw it back, you guys. Okay, throw it back. Okay, fish. We are breezing through because we are almost done with all of this. All right, so fish. So the picture that you have for fish has obviously a bunch of fish, some pretty cool fish. You have a clownfish, a pufferfish, an angelfish, an anglerfish next to the angelfish, and a barracuda. So it's this picture, and this is a really cool fish right here. The red lionfish. I like that guy. Where's the camera? Right there. That guy's cool. Okay, so let's take this out. Make sure you glue this into your notebook, and let's get started with some notes. All right, so fish. They live their entire lives in water, obviously, right? They're fish. That's what they do. Their bodies are covered with scales for protection. So scales offer a form of protection from predators, from like other things in the water. Instead of hearing you, fish feel vibrations caused by predators through the water. So you've just or will watch the video on the School of Fish. And again, just like those fish feel the vibrations of certain fish moving and know to move together, this is the same type of sensory trigger that we're talking about here. So they don't have ears, but they feel the vibrations caused by predators through the water. Because you guys know that sound waves have actual like energy, and in thicker matter, so instead of air, in water, you would be able to see that movement. So that's what fish feel. Okay, they have gills for them to breathe in the water. They also have fins that help them swim. These are all just general characteristics, guys. Fish are cold-blooded, meaning that their body temperature changes when the temperature of the water changes. Nearly all daylight fish can see in color. That's pretty cool. I wonder how they test for that. Like, how do they know that fish can see in color? Put on like fish goggles? Oh. Okay, they also have extraordinary senses of taste and smell. So they can't hear, but they can smell in the water. That's funny. Okay, life cycle. So egg or live birth. And then they go to like a youthful stage, and then they go to the adulthood stage. So nearly 97% of all fish lay eggs. However, some give birth to live young. Again, just because that happens, it doesn't necessarily mean they're considered mammals. It's just they give birth in that way. The newly hatched fish are referred to as larvae. They rapidly grow into juveniles. The young fish begin to feed on zooplankton. There are over 32,000 different species of fish that are known. Species of fish vary from freshwater fish to saltwater fish. So obviously, saltwater fish live in the oceans or seas that have salt concentrations in the water, and then freshwater fish live in lakes and ponds and things like that that do not have high concentrations of salt. So a freshwater fish could not survive in the ocean because their bodies are not created to be able to filter that out or use that as part of their whole body system. Same with saltwater fish. So if you put a saltwater fish in freshwater, it will not be able to process that water and won't be able to breathe. Because remember, they breathe through oxygen from the water. So it'll kind of suffocate them if you put them in their opposite environments. Species of, we already read that, sorry, okay. There are three major types of classes of fish, including, so three major types of fish. There's jawless fish, there's bony fish, and then there's, this is hard to say, cartilaginous. So these are fish that have cartilage, okay? Spelled C-A-R-T-I-L-A-G-I-N-O-U-S, cartilaginous. Yeah. Okay, an example of jawless would be the lamprey eel. Sharks are cartilaginous fish, and blue marlin is an example of a bony fish. Habitat. Obviously, they all live in water. Some can tolerate colder water temperatures, while others prefer warmer climates. There are a variety of fresh and saltwater fish species. We just went through that. There's even different types of fish that survive in different depths of water. So fish that survive in deeper waters their bodies are created a lot stronger and sturdier because there's a lot of pressure. If you think about like the different, like let's say as tall as the camera, okay? So like this is the surface. So a fish that lives here doesn't need to be as strong because the water pressure from here to here isn't that much, right? And so the fish is a lot lighter. Whereas the fish that lives down here, it needs to be able to withstand all this water pressure. And you guys, water is heavy. If you've ever like carried a bucket of water, it is not light, okay? So the fish that live in the deeper depths, that's technical, by the way, you can use that. They need to be sturdier fish. That fish, its body is created, its breathing system, its gills, all like the food that it eats, it finds it in those depths. If that fish were to live in higher depths, right? So areas closer to the surface, it would not be able to survive. I think it like either explodes or implodes. I'm not sure. I'll find out. And then the fish that live closer to the surface could not survive in lower depths. They would kind of just explode because of the pressure and the weight of the water. So everybody kind of has their own place where they belong. Okay. Let's see. Still other fish prefer riverbanks, streams, marshes, and swamps. So their diet, depending on the type of fish and where they sort of live, they can be herbivore. I can never say that word. Herbivores. I was listening to something and they were saying it was herbivores. How do you say that word, Mr. Keys? Herbivores?
I have more fun just listening to you try. Should I give her the answer, guys?
No.
I don't think I'm going to do it.
Herbivores.
Omnivores?
Herbivores. No.
Herbivores? Like Herbie?
No, like herbs, like plants. They eat plants. So there's carnivores, there's omnivores, which I think those eat all of them. Those can eat like plants and meat. And then carnivores eat meat or other fish or other animals. And then herbivore, they eat plants. They eat plants, you guys. It's not a word I need to say. Like the only time that I need to know how to pronounce that word is at the end of the year when I do animals. And I will figure it out by next year. Maybe. Okay. There's also scavengers. So we have plant eaters, carnivores, and scavengers. Most fish feed on anything from plankton to other smaller fish, so smaller than themselves. Obviously, you're not going to have like a little clownfish eating a tuna. That's pretty ambitious of him, but he wouldn't be able to hang. Okay, some fish also feed on algae and seaweed and pondweed. Pondweed, I've never heard of that before. I guess it's like weeds that grow in ponds that are freshwater, as opposed to seaweed, which grows in oceans, which has salt. And that's the difference, for sure. Okay, other features. Salmon, not pronounced salmon, okay, salmon, hatch in freshwater streams or rivers. Then they swim downstream to the saltwater sea. Later, when the time is right, they will swim back upstream to the place they hatched to lay their own eggs. So salmon are pretty incredible. That's it. So make sure that you write all these notes down. Make sure that you take a picture and submit it. And remember, we did amphibians and fish, and you will do both pictures in the assignment. So you'll have one picture with your notes for amphibians and one picture for your notes for fish. And that's it, you guys. Next week, we are having kind of a review of everything. And then your final animal unit test is, I will tell you right now, those of you who stopped the video, you snooze, you lose. Okay, your final test will be Thursday, May 21st. And we're gonna do that in Google, and you guys are just gonna answer few questions on all of the animals that we have studied. You have all your notes, so I'm not going to test you on anything that we did not learn through the notes. So you just make sure you can go through stuff. If you didn't really do one of the assignments and you're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna have questions on fish and I didn't do that assignment, then go back and watch the videos. They're there forever. And maybe write some notes because you're gonna need that information for your test. And that is going to be it, you guys. I wish that we would have been able, this would be the week that we would be dissecting frogs. And I just now saw an option for that to have been something that I sent home, which in a way I think would have been fun, even though I think your parents would have not been very happy with the smell of formaldehyde in your house. But I will try next year to fit you guys in, maybe during the 6th graders animal unit. I'll probably just pause your human body systems unit and maybe dissect a frog next year, because you guys totally missed out on that this year. And it was so funny because the week that we left, so that last week in March, Mr. Jackson and I were like close to pulling the trigger on purchasing the frogs and all the equipment and everything for this fun activity. So you are going to watch a video on it. And again, that is very, just if you're curious about it, you're going to watch the video. I'm not going to make you do an assignment because I know some of you might not want to get through the whole thing. It is kind of graphic. You guys, just take a deep breath. Don't eat before. Probably not after either. So basically just don't eat for that whole day if you're a queasy person. But yeah, again, maybe next year, hopefully we'll be able to squeeze you guys in for that. So that's it. I'm done. 21 minutes and 45 seconds later. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.